Good evening, this is Julian Barber. Today is August 4th, which means we are about a third of the way through the baseball season and the professional football season is about to begin. So naturally it follows that tonight we're presenting a special sports report by Dan Daniels from a basketball camp.
Now, if Jay stops to take his shot, Henry's in good defensive position to guard against that. All right, let's try it again.
The temperature was near 90 degrees for an afternoon session of the Metropolitan Area Basketball School at St. John's High School. A day camp, first in the Washington area, now joined by at least a half dozen others. The school is directed by friendly rivals, coaches Joe Gallagher of St. John's and Morgan Wooten of DeMatha High.
We have 4 two-week sessions and we have one one-week session, and we try to instruct mostly in fundamentals because we don't want to interfere with the coaches that these young men are going to go back and play for. So we do stress fundamentals considerably and also try to get them adjusted to game situations.
I started my coaching career under Joe Gallagher quite a few years ago, and we've always been good friends except on the court. And we started talking about basketball in the Washington area, and we saw an opportunity we thought to really help the game, so we kind of became partners, and we've been at it for the past 8 years, and we've enjoyed every minute of it. The young men that attend here, they really love the game of basketball. They're dedicated. When the gym doors open at 8 o'clock, they're waiting and ready to go, and it's not unusual in the evening when we close up at 6 to see some of them go up in the track in the back and run 2 or 3 miles. They're really dedicated, they're working hard, and they're improving every day.
Okay, everyone is imagining that you're guarding me. When I take a step, you're going to retreat. Back. Back.
Donald Willis, a sophomore at Georgetown University, is a senior counselor, one who believes you can't start teaching defense too early. Others include Aubrey Nash of the Kansas team that gained the national championship tournament, and 6'11" sophomore Tom McMillan of Maryland.
You always take that short step first, and then there's a long one. And then you always remember, put that ball out in front of you, not close to you, and then close the gap. In doing so, it's like this. Stay low, it ain't low. Start out. All right, it's good, except for one thing, you had your head down. Keep your head up at all times, so you'll be aware of everything going on in the court.
This is the figure 8 drop. Again, taking it through your leg, around front, drop. Keep your head up, and you do it slow. Listening to the rhythm. Okay? So, we'll try a few guys out here to try it. Come on, let's demonstrate. Go slow at first, gang. Work up gradually.
And of course, there are the games. The players divided into leagues by experience, size, and ability. In a 2-week session, each plays in at least 16 games, each laboring in the summer heat, dreaming of a place on a team next winter. Washington's growing basketball reputation really begins on the playgrounds. Basketball camps are rather like graduate schools, whose students hope to join names like Bing or Carr or any of the other great stars. This is Dan Daniels at St. John's College High School.
News 4 Wednesday is brought to you in color on WRC-TV with Julian Barber, Dan Daniels, Don Sarreals, Richard L. Coe, and Clare Crawford from the top of the Kennedy Center.
You know what I've heard? Well, that a lot of rain is really good for the asparagus crop.
Swell. Next year we'll spend our vacation planting asparagus.
Are you kidding?
Would I kid you, honey?
I'm allergic to asparagus.
Yes, I know.
The beauty of the new Toyota Corona hardtop is not just the way it looks on the outside.
I thought you said it only rained 1 week out of the year here.
That's right.
That's right?
Inside, the new Corona has a rear seat that folds down flat, giving you nearly 6.5 feet of continuous space from the front seat to the tip of the trunk.
Honey, I think it stopped.
That's what you said yesterday.
After all, you never know when some extra room will come in handy. See your nearby Toyota dealer and get your hands on a Toyota. You'll never let go.
Tony Bennett, the man Frank Sinatra called the best singer in the business, comes to the Shady Grove Music Fair accompanied by the big band sound of Buddy Rich. Play dates are Wednesday, August 4th through Sunday, August 8th. Pick yourself a date and come out to Shady Grove to enjoy the magic drums of Buddy Rich and Tony Bennett's hits such as Street of Dreams and I Left My Heart in San Francisco. For reservations, call area code 301-948-3400. That's 301-948-3400. Don't miss Tony Bennett and Buddy Rich at Shady Grove.
How new VO5 hairspray, now with amazing Mirrol Plus, gives you more hold with less spray. One girl uses VO5, the other sprays longer with another leading brand. Now, let's see which holds better through wind, humidity, rain. Look, no hold here, but VO5 holds beautifully, doesn't look stiff, doesn't feel sticky. For more hold with less spray, get VO5 now with Mirrol Plus.
Because of heavy rainfall in the Washington area, the U.S. Weather Service says a flash flood watch is expected to remain in effect until midnight. Following yesterday's rainfall, the waters of the Patuxent River spilled over the Rocky Gorge Dam near Laurel, causing some damage to apartments and businesses.
Engineers at the Rocky Gorge Dam had opened the floodgates as the Patuxent River rose behind it, but still water was spilling over the gates left closed as it was at the Brighton Dam upstream. Because of the heavy rain, the reservoir level rose 1/10 of a foot each half hour late last night and this morning, rising far faster than is usually normal in summer. It peaked at 9:30 in the morning, but there was still concern as tons of rainwater poured downstream. Below the dam, the Patuxent rose to a level of 14 feet. It is normally just 2 or 3 feet deep in summer. The river rose just under one of the bridges carrying Route 1 through Laurel, and it had to be closed. There is no evidence yet of structural damage. Traffic was also blocked on Route 198 near Anne Arundel County and in other low-lying areas. Throughout the Laurel area, police and firemen said the water was receding. Earlier, they had advised some residents to prepare to evacuate the area, but in most cases, this was not necessary. For the moment, the rain-swollen Patuxent seems to have stabilized, but officials are concerned about the effect of another heavy rain. Lloyd Siegel, News 4 Washington at Laurel, Maryland.
Late today, Prince George's County health officials said the Marlboro Sewage Treatment Center flooded and raw sewage was polluting the lower Patuxent River. Residents who have shallow wells in the river area south of Upper Marlboro are advised to boil their water before drinking it. And people who come into contact with the river should wash themselves off thoroughly. And Don Sarreals, I think you have something to add to this warning.
Well, once that occurs, Julian, there's always a threat of a backup, so residents in that area should be on the alert for that this evening. And another reason, of course, to stay home is to stay tuned for further events on our flash flood watch covering the area. Right now, there are thunderstorms all around the Washington area, and the heaviest ones are still to the west, so there is a chance of heavy rains this evening yet. Now, let's check our National Weather satellite map for today. On today's satellite photo, we have a band of clouds containing showers and thunderstorms meandering from New England to Texas. At the time this picture was taken, the leading edge was just pushing into the mid-Atlantic region. Right now, we are engulfed in this pattern, which will move slowly eastward and off the coast by early Friday. Our high today in Washington, 85 degrees, 24-hour rainfall to 7 a.m., 2.2 inches, only a trace at Nationals so far today. Last night's low, 73 degrees. Now, on our national temperature map for tonight, the pocket of cool air over the western Great Lakes last night will affect the eastern lakes tonight. In fact, cooler temperatures over our region tonight, around the 60-degree marks over the western Appalachian sections, in the 60s elsewhere, except over southeast Virginia, where low 70s will be the rule. Cooler temperatures and tonight's showers and thunderstorms are caused by an eastward-moving weather front that cuts through the mid-Atlantic region. This weather front will move slowly off the coast during Thursday, not clearing the entire region till early Friday. Right now, we're 78 degrees with showers in the area, and a flash flood watch is in effect for tonight for thunderstorms, possibly heavy at times. Low tonight about 68 degrees. The weather forecast for Washington for Thursday: we'll have slow clearing, showers ending in the morning, but lingering along the coastal sections and over southern Virginia. The high in Washington, 83 degrees, 77 to 80 at the shore, 78 in the mountains, about 84 at Richmond with northerly winds 7 to 14 miles per hour. That outlook for Friday's weather: partly sunny skies and less humid here in Washington, but showers just ending over southern Virginia, and a good weekend coming up at last, Julian.
Thank you, Don. That's good news at last. The House today passed the draft extension bill, but the Senate is not expected to act on it until after a 5-week recess, which begins Friday. The Selective Service System, meanwhile, is going ahead with tomorrow's draft lottery.
Third annual draft lottery has been scheduled by the Selective Service System because they want to be ready to carry out inductions if and when the Congress passes the draft extension bill. And they believe that 19-year-olds should have a little notice. The Selective Service System has been without authority to induct since July 1st. Congress tied the Vietnam War to the draft bill, and the debate is still going on. Selective Service is still an active government agency, however, operating under Public Law 9040, with authority to carry out all of its other duties, and running the draft lottery is one of those duties. Tomorrow, young men born during 1952 will get the word on their chances of being drafted. Closely watched by public and private observers, birth dates and numbers will be drawn from 2 drums and then matched. There is some encouraging news for the anxious 19-year-old. Defense Department requirements for 1972 are expected to be such that a young man assigned a number above 100 may never be called. Gordon Graham, NBC News, Washington.
NBC News will cover the draft lottery live on radio and television tomorrow. That coverage will begin immediately after the live coverage of the walk in space by Apollo 15 astronaut Alfred Worden. That's due to begin at 11:30 a.m.
The person who shot the Duke is in this very room.
And apprehend the scoundrel.
First, let's have a touch of refreshment. Countess, what does this look like?
Like ground roast coffee.
Monroe, what does this smell like?
Ground roast, sir.
It's a Bentley. What does it sound like?
Ground roast.
Good. Now we'll just wait 10 minutes for it to percolate.
Oh, you don't have to wait at all. Just put the bloomin' taster's choice into a cup and add hot water.
And what do you get?
Ground roast flavour. As good as me own.
Right. And that's why you did the Duke in. Only you and the Duke knew this was Taster's Choice freeze-dried coffee. He loved it, planned to serve it to his guests, and you'd be out of a job.
It was me vanity, sir.
Constable, the great whodunit. Who done put ground roast taste into a freeze-dried coffee?
Taster's Choice. That's who done it.
Madame, welcome to Checkerboard Restaurant. For dinner tonight, we have something entirely new, a choice of over a dozen delicious entrees. Perhaps Madame would like our new chicken chasseur, or the chicken à la King Royal, or macaroni and cheese, or any one of the new and delicious checkerboard entrees in your grocer's freezer. Take your husband out to dinner tonight at Checkerboard Restaurant. Psst, you only live once.
The Alexandria School Board meets tonight, but is not expected to act on demands by federal civil rights officials for desegregation of 5 predominantly black elementary schools. Superintendent John Album has told HEW that the board will not consider another plan until after a federal court rules on complaints by white parents about the board's plan to completely desegregate grades 7 through 12. That plan would require some busing of older students. Dr. Album told NBC education reporter John Cochran that more desegregation now would pose a real political problem for local and federal officials.
The pace of desegregation, the politics of desegregation, in the broad sense of the word of politics, needs balance. And that balance is related to how fast you do these things. And a community which has done as much as this city has done in terms of reorganizing its secondary schools now, grades 7 through 12, certainly has had a burden, as evidenced by the fact that some parents in this community now have the school board in court. And I wrote HEW to that effect, too, sir.
In view of the fact that you're in court right now with a suit by white parents who are unhappy with what you and the school board are doing to desegregate secondary schools, do you think that to have to push forward right away in the elementary schools would cause the kind of split in the community that simply wouldn't be good educationally?
I think it's conceivable. We have not assessed this, and the board has not, because once again, our subjective reaction to that may not be a decision that HEW would make or that a court would make. Now, there are people in Alexandria who will feel more comfortable if a court would make the judgment that you're implying in your question rather than the school board or my recommendation. And this may be the pace that we have to think about.
If HEW demands that you desegregate these 5 predominantly black elementary schools, would there have to be busing in order to do it?
Yes.
Busing of white students?
Yes, there'd have to be busing of black students out or white students in. The pattern would vary in each community. Our nearby community bused black children out, but did not bus any white pupils in.
You don't realistically think HEW is going to require you to do that by September, do you?
It would appear to be highly unlikely with 3 or 4 weeks to go, sir.
2 Washington Redskin trades were reported today. The Los Angeles Rams are giving the Skins defensive back Richie Pettibone for an undisclosed draft choice. Pettibone is the 7th Ram to move here since George Allen took over. And Allen announced that defensive end Bruce Anderson has been traded to the New Orleans Saints for running back Tom Barrington. In afternoon baseball, the Chicago Cubs beat the San Diego Padres in the completion of a suspended game, and Cincinnati beat New York. Tonight at Detroit, the Senators will start Dick Bosman against Mickey Lolick. It was announced today that the National Council on the Arts will distribute $160,000 to 16 museums in 14 states to be used for the acquisition of contemporary art. And Richard L. Coe, I understand there's more to this than is immediately obvious.
I think so, Julian, because the money, you see, is going to places like Tougaloo, Omaha, Albuquerque, Laramie, Greenville. These are towns that are meaningful to Capitol Hill. And the men on Capitol Hill who recently have voted to give more money to the federal arts programs than ever before, they've doubled Mr. Nixon's previous requests, have indicated this way of showing that they know what's going on in the world of the arts. It also means that they recognize that the money is going not to dealers who make money out of dead artists, but to contemporary artists who are very much alive in little towns that we don't really think too much about in these big cities. I think, too, from Capitol Hill, we could cross the Potomac and think about what's going on in Virginia. Over at Wolf Trap this week, there is a superbly interesting engagement by the Stuttgart Ballet. Stuttgart is a city in Germany on the Neckar of about 600,000 people. That's considerably less than in this metropolitan area. They have their own municipal orchestra, ballet company, opera, and theater. The ballet company was founded only 10 years ago by an Australian named John Cranko, and it's his work in it that is one of the interesting things about it. He has about a quarter of them are Americans, a third are British, and the rest from all over Europe. They are playing here through Sunday night, and I think that you'll find it interesting to visit them. Now, let's look at the work of the Stuttgart Ballet on the stage at the Wolf Trap Farm.
The International Boy Scout Jamboree has opened in Japan, and thousands of scouts, including many from the Washington area, are attending.
Opening day for the 13th World Jamboree, the first ever held in Japan, found the Boy Scouts, as could be expected, prepared. Storm clouds obscured nearby Mount Fuji, but all the tents were up. More than 23,000 scouts from at least 86 countries are encamped at Asagiri Heights, 90 miles west of Tokyo. There were plenty of chores to do on the first day. The scouts knew how to take care of themselves. The Japanese Boy Scouts were the perfect hosts and entertained in their own fashion. The American Boy Scouts, numbering 7,800, were the biggest contingent from overseas. The theme of the Jamboree is For Understanding, and there was a natural mingling of boys who speak dozens of languages. They had one thing in common, scouting and the curiosity of youth. Boy Scouts from every nation represented at the Jamboree massed in a large open arena for the major event of the day, the opening ceremonies. For the full 9 days of the Jamboree, most of the Boy Scouts will be practicing international scouting for the first time. Jack Russell, reporting for NBC News from Asagiri Heights, Japan.
3 of the Washington area youngsters at the International Scout Jamboree were honored by being selected for the Honor Guard on opening day. They were Peter Mapes of Bethesda and Scott Purdy and Thomas Russell of Silver Spring.
We're all in Columbia, at the mall in Columbia. Woodward and Lothrop, Hochul Cone, Airport and Scan Furniture, Peck and Peck and the Knick-Knack Nosh Nook, Potomac Toy Shop and Susie's Casuals, all in Columbia. At the
The mall in Columbia is open from 10 a.m. till 9:30 p.m. Monday through Saturday.
When you were a little girl, your mother always gave you bumblebee tuna because it was the best. And now that you're a mother, you know why. It's the nicest looking, freshest tasting tuna money can buy.
And it's nice to know you have the best.
Who's the best, Mommy?
You are, honey.
Bumblebee, junk light and sight. It's nice to know you've bought the best.
It would take all the dogs and cats registered in New York City, Los Angeles, Tampa, Boston, San Diego, Puerto Rico, Chicago, and then some to wear all the Hearts 90-day collars we've sold so far. Over 20 million Hearts 90-day collars. Now look at your pet. Shouldn't he be wearing the collar that conquered the flea, that protects him from itchy fleas for up to 3 months? The Hearts 90-day collar, from Hartford to Honolulu. It's the collar that conquers the flea.
Lots of girls ask me how they can have great-looking hair. So I'll show you a trade secret. On this side, I'm using a new discovery called Alberto Balsam. It combines cream rinse and conditioners in one easy step. To prevent tangles like these, salons use the Alberto Balsam formula for tangle-free combing. And for damaged hair, Alberto Balsam replaces 30-minute conditioning treatments. Use it regularly, damage and even split ends disappear. New Alberto Balsam combines cream rinse and conditioners.
District parents are being urged to take their children for free polio doses today at more than 18 clinics throughout the city. Over 120,000 youngsters, meaning more than 75% of the children in the city between the ages of 2 months and 10 years, have received the vaccine, but there still are 30,000 who need the immunization. Although there have been no cases locally in the past year, officials want to avoid the kind of polio outbreaks that victimized children in the years before the vaccine.
The Sharp School at 13th and Allison is a city center for educating handicapped children. Marcelino Ruiz is one of 3 young polio victims being trained there. Marcelino, who's now 13 years old, contracted polio in Mexico when he was 3. He's been at Sharp now for almost 6 years and is a 7th grader. Since the disease affected his legs, Marcelino undergoes regular therapy training.
Well, they have to adjust to whatever their disability is. For example, in this particular child, he's had good recovery in his arms, and he's got good arms. However, his legs are very weak. In fact, one leg, his left leg, is completely paralyzed, and he has marked weakness of his right. And he has to use bilateral long leg braces and crutches in order for him to stand or even to walk.
Marcelino is now completing his training and will attend regular school in his neighborhood, something that he's looked forward to for some time. Marcelino can lead a normal life, but his case points at the need for immunization. A major polio immunization campaign is now underway for 2 days at health clinics throughout the city. Officials say that some 30,000 children between 2 months and 10 years old still need to get polio protection. Andrea McCombs, News 4, Washington.
The New York stock market closed lower again today, with the Dow Jones Industrials off more than 5 points. The Apollo 15 astronauts are homeward bound after successfully firing their engines to take them out of moon orbit. Beginning August 9th, that's next Monday, the 3 restaurants atop the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts will be open to the public. There was a news media preview of the restaurants last night, and Clare Crawford was there.
This is a menu for the Grand Scene, the new French gourmet restaurant which will open next week at the Kennedy Center. Dinner for 2 here will cost from $21.50 to $50, including wine. and the menu covers everything from wild boar to crepe Suzette. It's in French. For those with a little tighter pocketbook, there's a European cafe coffee house on the roof also, where dinner is $9 to $12 a person. There's also a complete meal for $5.95 with a glass of wine at the buffeteria. Some critics have said that the Kennedy Center's purpose is to bring culture to the people, and the restaurants are a little expensive. However, their prices seem in line with the other restaurants in Washington, D.C. And also, these rooftop restaurants here at the Kennedy Center offer an unparalleled view of the Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Monument, and the Potomac River. Clare Crawford for NBC News, Washington.
Well, that's news for Wednesday. Tomorrow night, Dick Coe will have a special report on the rehearsal of a musical production that opens at Wolf Trap on August 12th. And Dan Daniels will be back tomorrow night along with Don Sarreals and the rest of our jolly little group. Until then, this is Julian Barber, NBC News. Good night.
Portions of the preceding program were pre-recorded.